Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon's Week 8 battle of the GBA Season 9. We are taking on Leo and the Durham Druddigons this week. Link is in the description below, as are all of my opponents and all of the coaches in the GBA. So make sure you go check them out. They are absolutely fantastic people and wonderful content creators as well. Now, before we get started, I've got some stuff to talk about. We have some transactions for the first time this season and the last time this season. The New York Empoleon's team will be changing. The transactions we made are: Crobat has been dropped for Necrozma, we dropped Victini for Stakataka, and we dropped the Dialga for Reshiram. I really thought these changes made necessary adjustments to my team, gave me some breakers that I needed to have. Additionally, gave me an added Stealth Rocker. Even though I dropped Dialga, I did pick up both Necrozma and Stakataka, so I do have 3 now, including Donphan. So they added that really necessarily. Victini was good, but it wasn't really abusing the Psychic Terrain, whereas I think Necrozma can do more with it. Photon Geyser being a particularly strong attack in Psychic Terrain, since it can be either physical or special, depending on what I need that week. And Necrozma does run that more often than Victini runs Psychic coverage, to be fair. Not to mention Necrozma can run setup, and that can really help. Stakataka can set up, and that can really be nice. So we do have options there, but we've got a doozy of a battle ahead of us right here. I'm not going to go too deep into those transactions, but like if you don't understand what the reasoning behind them is, generally the team was lacking offensive pressure mixed with defensive balancing, since I really didn't have a fairy type switch in at all. Victini and Crobat really don't count, and I didn't really have as much of a Psychic Terrain abuser as I wanted. So these transactions were very limiting. I would have preferred a slightly different steel type, honestly. Scizor fit this team incredibly well, but both forms of Scizor were taken and I couldn't get my hands on them. I tried to trade out for a couple of other things. I tried to trade Lele away, but nobody really wanted it. So it ended up being this as the options that we went with, but that's okay. That's where we are right now. So hopefully everything goes well, and we are going to lead off with one of those Pokemon in this matchup. But let's talk about Leo's team first. Leo's team is Marshadow, Garchomp, Ferrothorn, Thundurus Eye, Snorlax, Cresselia, Comfey, Alomomola, Nidoking, Darkrai, and Mega Medicham, with Garchomp and Thundurus being his 2 possible Z users. Now, his team sucks for my matchup. Honestly, this matchup, I went through so many iterations of this team, pre-transactions, post-transactions, trying to figure out a way to build around Leo's team. And what I came up with was, honestly, questionable at best, but I decided what I'm going to do is make Necrozma my dedicated lead. I actually switched some moves and items on this very late, including my front office hasn't even heard about this. I decided to do this on my own, so this is the first time they're going to be hearing about it in this video. I switched to Firium Z since Necrozma and Stakataka pair picked up for Victini and Crobat, which are my 2 Z users. They just became Z users immediately. So I decided to run Firium Z on the Necrozma with Heat Wave as a dedicated lead. If he leads his Ferrothorn, it still kills with an Aqua Berry with a Firium Z. Unless he's running max special defense, max HP, and a special defense boosting nature and Aqua Berry, Firium Z Heat Wave will kill, which means Ferrothorn doesn't get any hazards up, and I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. And it is really his catch-all check to Lele. It's really the only thing that wants to switch into both of Lele's stabs, so I do want that thing to be gone as fast as possible. Thunder Wave is really valuable. I was going to run Cassib Berry, I don't even know how to say that, but I was going to run Cassib Berry with the Photon Geyser able to take out the Marshadow, but what I decided to do was go with Thunder Wave and generally catch things on switch-ins, since the Marshadow probably isn't going to stay in if I'm at full health, since it can't kill me anyway. I am running Bold Nature with a ton of defensive investment, a little bit of special attack to make sure I can OHKO Marshadow from full, but otherwise we are going to be running mostly defensive investment. The one thing that I've got to worry about is a Marshadow with a Sash potentially being an issue, but Thunder Wave can also help me handle things like the Snorlax if it has immunity. The Crest being paralyzed is really nice, not gonna lie. The Darkrai being paralyzed, which can definitely be a switch into a Necrozma most of the time. That thing does not want to catch a Firium Z Heat Wave. Honestly, none of his real catches or checks to Marshadow to Necrozma want to be Thunder Waved or Heat Waved. Honestly, those are the 2 things that I can really spam. And if they don't mind those, like Alomomola, then Photon Geyser will do a lot of damage. And Moonlight is there for general, just keeping this thing alive, keeping this thing healthy, so it can be out of range of Marshadow if need be. Next up, we have another one of our new members coming this week, which is going to be the Reshiram. I have decided to run Choice Scarf Reshiram with Blue Flare, Psychic, Dragon Pulse, and Draco Meteor. Psychic and Psychic terrain, guys. It's a big deal. And it really actually handles his team quite well, since Leo's team does not appreciate just spamming Psychic. Scarf is going to allow me to outspeed Marshadow, which is super great because Shadow Sneak to Reshiram, which is naturally pretty bulky, doesn't do all that much. And then we are going to be able to outspeed that and the Darkrai and the Garchomp, which is amazing. And I can click the Dragon Pulse, hopefully. If he doesn't bring the Comfey, then Dragon Pulse is incredibly free, since Ferrothorn never wants to switch in on the Reshiram until he knows that I'm Scarfed, at which point I can play around that. This thing was going to be my lead until I decided to run Fire EMZ on the Necrozma, because actually Scarf Reshiram does a lot of work against his team. Then we're going to bring the Lele again. I've been talking about spamming moves that are very spammable with Lele around, and so we are definitely going to be bringing the Lele, which is also going to be Scarf this week. I know that my opponents do run Scarfers that outspeed Lele. I get that. So is the Garchomp going to be Scarfed? Is the Marshadow going to be Scarfed? Is the Darkrai going to be Scarfed? Those are the ones I'm really looking at. It could be Thundurus, but I doubt it. And so we're definitely going to be looking at those as his possible Scarfers, but I still needed the Scarf to make sure Mega Medicham wasn't a threat, and he won't Scarf all of those, meaning that Darkrai or Marshadow would probably be fodder for the Lele. Additionally, I have the Toxic on here, which can catch the Cresselia on a switch-in, or the Comfey, or the Alomomola, depending on what he wants to go into as his catch-all check to my Lele, if he thinks that I'm going to be clicking the Moonblast or the Psychic. And I do have the Hidden Power Fire again for the Ferrothorn, but I don't expect this thing to stay in on the Ferrothorn. That's only if I'm making a hard read that he's going to go Ferro on my Lele. And even then, Psychic is still doing about 30%, again, if he's not specially defensive, which I assume he might be. Now, Mega Medicham, the reason I needed to outspeed that was because both of my stabs threaten it incredibly hard, but if it can just attack me and kill me with like a poison jab, then that's terrible and I just lose my Lele. So I needed to run Scarf, even though I know he's going to run a Scarfer. It will at least allow me to figure out what his Scarfer is going to be. Next up, we have Ditto, which is actually going to be Sash this week, which is why I need Pharaoh dead from the word go, because if he doesn't get any hazards up, then Ditto with its Sash can actually be useful. Because Sash Ditto can 1v1 a Marshadow by speed tying, maybe winning the speed tie, or by taking the hit it needs to take, and then as long as it's not Sash Marshadow, killing it with a Spectral Thief, and if it is Sash Marshadow, going for a second speed tie with Shadow Sneak. So winning one of those two speed ties works for me. Additionally, Sash Ditto can take a hit from Mega Medicham if it needs to, like if push comes to shove, it can take a hit from, well, anything, honestly. That's what Sash does. But this thing is not going to be a lead, and it's going to be a pivot, and I don't know how much that Sash is going to come into play, since it is going to be a defensive pivot a lot of the time, since a lot of his team, it's just figuring out what information I can get, what moves he has, excuse me, but that's why Sash is also useful, because then at least if I bring my Ditto in and he kills it right off the bat, then I don't get any information. I don't get to see what moves he has. If I live with the Sash, even if he kills me the next turn, at least I saw all of the moves that he had, which is still really, really valuable information for the Ditto. So first time I'm ever going to run Sash Ditto, so we're going to see how this goes. It has not been useful at all in mocks. Not the Ditto, but the Sash has not been useful at all in mocks, but I figure the safety, the feeling of comfort that I have by knowing it's there is something that I can't overstate how much that is important to me as a player, knowing that I have that backup plan and that backup contingency. Even if it hasn't been useful yet, that doesn't mean it won't be useful the next time. Next up, we have Beedrill, which did stay. It was one mon that I was looking about changing, but I decided not to. And we are going to be going Roost, Toxic Spikes, U-Turn, and Poison Jab. Adamant Nature, since I don't need to run Jolly to outspeed anything, but this is why I know he's also going to run a Scarfer, whether it's Marshadow or Darkrai. Probably Marshadow in all honesty, but I can't swear to that because Banded Marshadow does so much work to my team. Toxic Spikes is incredibly useful. I don't know if Nidoking comes, but if it doesn't, then Marshadow, Garchomp, we figure out if it's Immunity or Gluttony Snorlax, Comfey, Alomomola, Darkrai, Mega Medicham, all don't appreciate even just one layer of Toxic Spikes. And so that can be incredibly valuable to me. Not to mention he has no spin, he only has Defog, and his Defoggers are super limited in Thundurus and Comfey. So if he's going to defog, he's going to defog his own hazards away from his Pharaoh, and I want that thing dead as soon as possible. This thing does do about 50% or more to a Pharaoh with U-Turn, which is amazing. And Pharaoh also becomes setup fodder for Toxic Spikes, but at the same time, this is going to be a Adamant max attack Beedrill, which is going to be trying to spam U-turn as much as possible, getting myself into positions where I can potentially break his team down, and then trying to get one layer of Toxic Spikes up in the mid game is really all I need in order to chip his team down, since Cresselia doesn't get hit by it anyway, which is the one thing I'd actually really want Toxic. Roost is there, so he can't stall me out with the Ferrothorn using Iron Barb's chip and Rocks. So I switch into Rocks, I Roost, and then I switch out again on a U-turn and survive the next time I come in. That's why Roost is there. It's not that useful, but since Rocky Helmet, Rough Skin, Garchomp, and Rocky Helmet, Iron Barb's Ferrothorn can both do almost 50% to my Beedrill, I'm going to try to be able to negate that. And lastly, we have my Zapdos, which is going to be Heat Wave, Defog, Roost, and U-turn. U-turn, just slightly better than Volt Switch because it can hit the Garchomp and the Nidoking and get me out on those things, which are pretty reliable switches. I don't have Electric Stab because I don't need it. Alomomola being the one thing I would potentially use it for, but Heat Wave was much more useful to be able to come in on the Ferrothorn and Heat Wave that, and then Defog and Roost and all those things. So fairly standard Zapdos, nothing too special about it, but that is the team we are going to be rocking against Leo this week. Hopefully all goes well and we keep our playoff dreams, even as minute as they are, alive. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow with that battle. Take care, everybody.